All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of the Forge Your Life podcast. Here are you with your host, Richard Food from richardfood.com and The Ultimate Man. And today, guys, I truly am excited to have this guy on because last time when we had our show, we were having such a great conversation and you guys missed out. You guys missed out on it because the software that we were using to record lost itself. It got deleted into the ether of the internet. And so my absolute pleasure to have this guy back on. His name's Jared Osborne. He's the founder of Embodying, man. And he's a men's coach. He's a QiGong teacher. He's a psychotherapist. He does some amazing things. And not only that, he loves to share. And we having the pleasure of having Jared on because his wife's about to have a baby, but he's also made time for us again to have a second interview because our first one failed because of the internet. But not to blame anyone else, but I'm excited to have this guy on because we're going to be talking about Qigong here today, guys. And I want you to welcome Mr. Jared Osborne on with me. Jared, good to have you on again, bro.
Thanks, Richard. It's great to be here.
Oh, man, it's awesome to have you on, and I apologize again for what happened last time. But for the people who don't know about you, Jared, man, could you share a bit more about yourself and what you do?
So I really help men to be just more of who they are. Is the way I see it. I don't see it as helping men to, in some senses, to be more of this, more of that, more present, more anything. It's just like there's nothing wrong. It's what brings more of us and creates a more awesome life is men being more of who they are. And the work I do, whether this in the groups, and I run QiGong groups doing that. I've got an online course. I do a lot of one-on-one coaching over Skype and in person. It's really just getting guys to be more of who they are and just getting their awareness and consciousness a lot deeper into their physical body and really awakening and getting in touch with and strengthening what's there. That's in a sense the heart of it. Because I guess, for me in my journey, it's like that's the stuff that's really brought me alive. Mm-hmm. I used to be really, really insecure, years of depression, really struggled a lot in my life and hit a lot of new men's movement stuff. And I was like, trying to be present, trying to do this, trying to do that, trying to be this new idea of man, and actually tied myself in deeper knots. Mm-hmm. So once I sort of threw all that out the window and just tried being me for a while, all that stuff just started emerging quite naturally. Mm-hmm. All the things that I kind of really wanted and a deeper sense of confidence and self was there. And over time, it just began making sense to help other guys with exactly that.
Nice, man. And I know from our last talk and learning a bit more about yourself, Jared, is that you don't just get to the surface part of it, is it? It actually goes deeper, and you go much, much deeper into the depths of what it means to be a real man, and to be not just any real man, it's just to be actually your own real man. Yeah. And I know that Qigong plays a lot of that in there. And so for the people like myself, man, and people who are listening who haven't heard about Qigong, could you share a bit more about what that is and how that helps you and your services help guys get more present?
Yeah. So Qigong is a art from China, is where its roots are, and it comes from a similar root to Kung Fu, the Chinese medicine, acupuncture, Tai Chi, things like that. It comes from the same root body of work, if you like, and it's sometimes say to people the closest equivalent to it would be yoga, which is from the Indian tradition, but that's sort of true, and it's also completely different. I'm biased because I think it's the most awesome thing in the world, but sometimes it's kind of a really deep meditative aspect of, and it might seem they're sitting there doing meditation, but it's not just more stillness and clearing the mind meditation like might sort of doing a lot of practices like Buddhism or mindfulness practice. It's actively getting really deep into and working through the energy and the tissues and the physicality of the body. Getting a deep awareness in the movement practices that can look a lot more like Tai Chi, gentle, simple movements that say might help to open up the fascia or the tendons or strengthen the bones or open the energy channels within the body. And some of it can even look a lot like martial arts and can actually be really hard and strong and forceful and really strengthen the body. And there's other aspects of it which are actually medical. Like in China, there's entire hospitals and all they do is QiGong. All they do is energy healing, basically, because one of the things you can do with it, because Qi is our life force energy. And it's this energy that runs through our body. And part of what we're doing in QiGong is strengthening that and making that part of ourselves stronger. And in these QiGong hospitals, you can train to learn to project that. Something similar, if anyone's familiar with Reiki, practices like that, it's a similar thing, but very specific in terms of really specific and powerful understanding of how the human body works and how it's put together. There's thousands, it's like its roots go back like 5,000 years. There's like 5,000 years of knowledge and awareness building layer upon layer of how the human body as a whole system works, that this practice and these ideas tap into and work with.
Wow. Because so for so long, I mean, when I looked at Qigong and when I first got introduced to it, I looked at it like, isn't this Tai Chi? It almost looks like the same thing. And so how does it differ from Tai Chi and what makes it that much better? Oh, sorry, not its own thing.
Its own thing. Like there's overlaps. Like so many of these things, there's overlaps. And if anybody's done Qigong, if anyone's done like any martial arts or Tai Chi, they've probably done Qigong. And a lot of those things, it's in the warm-up practices that they would have likely done some Qigong forms. Like one of the best Qigong forms I learned at the start of my Tai Chi classes, which is one that sort of opens up the major joints of the body and opens up the tendons and the fascia through the body. And it's been the one thing I've done consistently for the last 20 years. Because it's just so good and the effect of my body is so amazing. But I guess in heart, what I would say like the difference between Tai Chi and Qigong is like Tai Chi is, since main focus is the movement and learning that. And then from there, the movement itself begins to sort of open up the energy channels and open up the layers, and it becomes more fluid. And it's like, it's years and years of learning and working through this as you slowly will kind of learn through the meridians and get the energy moving in and the free flow in the body. So Qigong does that, but we tend to go a lot more directly to it, which is part of what I like about it. So, like in a sense, a lot more quickly, we'll go directly to, okay, well, where's the kidney meridian running into, for example, in the body, and how do we directly work with that to build and strengthen the sexual energy? Because it's inherent to that part of the body. And we, work with the systems a lot more directly and a lot more powerfully. It's almost like a cross between like acupuncture and Chinese medicine and Tai Chi, for example. It's we go really a lot more specific and in-depth in what we do. And I mean, part of why I love it so much, I've trained Tai Chi for, every day for 7-8 years, trained at school, really consistently did that. But part of what I love about the Qigong is it's just its depth, and the depth it points to of embodiment and really being in the body. Like one of the key principles of Qigong is this principle called Yi Dao Qi Dao, which basically means where our attention goes, our energy follows. So, basic idea is whatever we focus on, that's where our energy goes, but really applying that to the body. If all our attention's up here, and in our thoughts are in our mind, I want to be this, I want to be that, that's where all the energy is going. And it's all flowing out. Whereas when we take the energy really deep into the body, begin exploring the very tissues, even the cells, the structure of the body, that's where our energy goes. So we get more energy right deep into the core of the body, and that's where more of our consciousness flows. So we actually have more consciousness, more presence, and more awareness in every moment.
I love that, man. I love that. And talk us through your own story here, Jared, of how you discovered Qigong, man. I mean, and I love what you said is that the further if we move our consciousness from our heads, right, and deep into our bodies, that's where most of our consciousness is. I'm excited to learn more of how you found that in your journey and how you discovered that.
But my first discovery point was in my mid-20s with it, and I was in a relationship at the time which really wasn't working. In retrospect, I just really shouldn't have been in it, but I was having sexual performance problems. Things just weren't working. I was just not getting results on that side of things that I wanted. That in retrospect, my perspective is now my body was telling me, run. This isn't a relationship you should be in. Doing that. But I was really trying to make things work. And I was in a bookstore at the time, looking in the self-help section, as you do when you're going through a whole bunch of crap, kind of go, I just need some help. And there was this book there and on the spine, it said The Multi-Orgasmic Man. And I was like, wow, that's really cool. So I pulled it out, and it was like pulling out the manual that I should have come out of my mum with. It was a detailed manual for men on how to basically like train and move and utilize the sexual energy in your body, including ejaculation retention, and practices like that, and how to apply that to lovemaking and to sex. And it was a complete revelation. And the system that they laid out in the book, so it was a book by Mantak Chia, who runs a school called the Healing Tao, and the system they laid out in their spiritual development within this book I was just like, oh my God, like this is just amazing. Because it's Qigong's a very natural based system. It's almost like the indigenous shamanic approach of China, in a sense. So it's very rooted in nature. It's very working with the natural cycles. Like, we breathe in and work with the sun and the moon and the earth energy, and it's very physical in a sense. And it was inspiring to see. And so I kind of took it home and worked through that, and then found a teacher from this school who was in my home city in Melbourne at the time. And kind of got, for a while, quite deep into those practices. And so that was that first onboard point for me. And as I said, I was really in here. I was really stuck in my head. A lot of anxiety, a lot of worry, a lot of depression going on. I didn't continue with that school, partly because, I guess I found the focus of that school to be very trying to move the energy upwards, really building consciousness and awareness. There was really embodied parts to it, but it was like I just got more ungrounded. I got more in my head. And that's when I ended up going out and finding my second teacher, which was Professor Wong, where I just did Kung Fu, Tai Chi, Judo, and trained really hardcore in that for 3 years. And there was a lot of the underlying principles and a lot of Qigong woven in and through that I learned, and just really got deeply into my body. And it was like, it's as much a philosophy and approach and a way of viewing life as it is a physical practice. It's very much as much about how we are as a person and our character and what we believe about ourselves all come into this practice. On a really basic level in terms of that, it's like when I was doing my martial arts, I was good at it, but I had a couple of things that I kept doing and I kept struggling with, and I kept overextending slightly. And it was something I struggled with for years, and I was really struggling to understand and to correct that part of my forms and of my training and of the combat. And it was my kind of greatest weakness, And then sort of what I learned was I learned something really important up near the end of that, when I started doing some of this more psychotherapeutic and coaching type work, was like, I was feeling insecure. I was trying to get approval. And I had a misaligned sense of myself. And so what I was doing in my form was I was overreaching to try to get, and I was trying too hard to try to get some kind of approval, to try to prove that I could do it, etc. And it was coming out physically in how I moved. And once I got that self-relationship back into line, it completely changed how I was doing the forms, completely changed how I was doing the Qigong and the Kung Fu I was doing at the time. And there's a shift in my character and how I felt about myself that completely shifted my physical movement. And that was a really big key point that's really taken me down this path of teaching that I've done, of realizing how, deeply integrated and really, like, you look at somebody and how they move and you can tell a lot about them, how they feel about themselves, about their world, how they're interacting. And with that knowledge and understanding, it's a lot easier to help them to come into alignment with their body and their character.
Oh man, and I love how you brought up that example, that story that you went through, whereby it was you're overreaching, and then you went deeper, right? You went deeper into why am I always like pushing a little bit more and it's not getting and I think this probably went through your head, like you push a little bit more, but you don't get the result. You don't get what it is that you want to get, and you think you got to try harder. You got to try harder. You got to try harder. And I think this is such a powerful lesson for the people listening here, even for myself, and a reminder for myself, Jared, is that I was similar to you, and then like I would overreach, and I used to do Taekwondo as well. I used to try and kick harder to try and get somewhere and try and just be like, yes, I'm good. But then I realize now that in your story or through your story that it's about sometimes, and this is what I've seen for myself as well, is like when we try too hard, you don't get what it is that you're trying to get. But when you just scale it back a bit, and I think this is what you're saying here, is that when you scale it back so that you're not trying to impress other people, you're not trying to impress upon yourself anything, that be who you're meant to be and just be okay with that, then the results actually start coming. Is that fair to say, man?
Yeah, totally. And it's like it's a big part of it comes from this isolated sense of self and us not feeling our connection to things. So it's like, to use a martial arts example, you got to hit somebody. It's like, if you're just trying to hit them with your body and with the resources of your body, it's like it kind of almost makes sense to try harder. You got to be stronger, build more muscle, blah, blah, blah. But instead, if you can relax a bit and connect with the floor, you can hit somebody with the floor. There's an entire earth underneath our feet, and the earth is big, man. You can hit somebody. So instead, you focus on trying to hit them with the earth rather than hit them with your body. And it's a sense, in what we're trying QiGong is that flow through of energy. So actually learning how to transfer that energy and power of the earth through our body into the action. And this is the same principle with anything. We have a massive amount of resources, of energy, of capacity all around us. And if we're in our individual bubble thinking, oh, it's just me and I've got to try harder and work harder and do this, it spend a lot of effort in getting only a small amount of results. But if we're able to, it's like if we're able to actually come into our center, explore the principles of life and of living and of getting harmony with actually what is real, which is being surrounded, giant earth underneath us, energy, food, water, a whole bunch of things everywhere, and we can learn to channel that energy more effectively. There's such an immeasurable, there's a whole scale up in terms of our power and effectiveness that's possible. Like one of the things I talk to my students about is say, well, like the most powerful thing in our little corner of the solar system is the sun. And the sun didn't put any effort into becoming the sun. It just followed natural principles, and it just condensed over time, and over time it just condensed and got deeper and deeper and stronger, and finally ignited and pulled more matter into itself. And at no point was there any effort, and yet it's an incredibly powerful object. We are in fact so powerful we have to be shielded from it, otherwise we'd get completely fried. It's kind of similar kind of principles like that we work with in QiGong, is looking at the natural world around us, understanding that and applying them to our lives. Like, allowing the earth to move through us to create effective action rather than going, I've got to do this. I'm only from my feet to my hands and it's only my resources that I've got to apply here. And it's not true.
And I love how you when you're fighting someone, it's not just about your fists, your feet, body fighting them. It's like, look around you. I mean, like maybe it's, and I love, and when you said use the earth to fight them as well, it's like it's almost like I'm a body of, I don't know, I think of it as like fluid or something like that to guide that person into the earth or something like that. So that and I think about it now, it's like it makes so much more sense to me now on what it is, and this is why you keep saying it's QiGong opens up the channels and helps you flow and be more fluid. Is that it helps you actually connect, and I get it now. I think that is that it brings us to the present, so then we can actually look around us and see what resources are around, what is available to us, and actually using that. Because most of the time, if we're so, and I think this is what happens, is that when I'm so stuck in my head, I think about how much harder do I have to work? How much if I just stayed up working later, if I just stayed up doing more sets, doing more work, I'll get there. But instead of that, what you're saying is, what if you just looked around and looked at what resources are available? And that includes the internet, that includes people, that includes all the technology that we have around us that can actually help us, right? If then we're more in flow. Yeah,
totally.
Oh man, I think I'm finally getting it now, Jared. No wonder it took a second call for me to actually get it now. One more question before we start wrapping up the show here, Jared, is that you're talking about how the sun, it didn't take effort to actually become what it is. Then is there any risk then of people here, if we did the same principle, we followed the same ideas, is that there should not be that much effort in there, that we end up being lazy, we end up going like, Jared, I'm not going to do anything here because it's up to the universe of, where I end up being. And it's up to destiny if I meet that girl. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You get drawn whereby you have to actually do some work as well, where you have to go do something to make it happen instead of just sitting there going, or being all like, I'll leave it up to fate and destiny.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, it's easier to take that interpretation, but that ignores the fact that it's like we simply just want to do things. We want to put in effort. And it's like there's a lot of spiritual traditions, for example, that kind of say, oh, well, desire is bad and you shouldn't desire things. But it's like in QiGong, we go, desire is normal. It's like wanting to do stuff's normal. So it's working with that natural desire to do things and to create. And it's like, I'm really driven. I do a lot of things. But I'm really keep trying to, and I don't always get this. I can get caught in overextending myself, just like probably everybody. But it's like, the more skilled I get at, the more I'm able to draw and let that through and be in a sense, be in harmony with my natural will and my natural level of effort, rather than trying to push and overextend and get exhausted and depleted and etc. And it allows me to be a lot more balanced in the action and frankly far more effective. So, and it's one thing we sort of specifically work on the QiGong classes I do is around sexual energy. It's one of those aspects for most guys that really bring them out of balance. It's like that, wanting to go out and get a date, or wanting to really, give you one a great time or an amazing screaming orgasm or whatever it is. And we're going to go, I've got to try harder. I've got to pump harder. I've got to, get better lines. I've got to do that. And it's actually fundamentally not what they're looking for. It's like we're actually able to really be in ourselves, be in our center, and just be kind of like, well, I'm awesome. Come. That doesn't mean we go out and seek, but we also leave space for, in a sense, the world or woman to come to us as well, rather than just always trying to push and get and take. It's being in my experience, part of it's being in the dance. It's finding those places, exploring and finding those places where we can go, yeah, now there, bang, that's where the most effective action is. Rather than, example of this is one thing one teaches, Professor Wong, or as he say to us, like, when you're striking, if you're hard through here, by the time you get to the strike, there's no power.
Okay.
But if you're soft, you get to the strike, bang, you've got so much more power. When the action to the strike is that softness, that suppleness within your body, it allows the transfer to power through into that strike, into that action.
Right.
So there's that aspect of that, of like, so it's not that you don't try or use powerful effort, but it's like being in that harmony, following that natural will, sort of almost being a little bit restrained to find that point of like, yeah, that's the most effective thing I can do. Now I'm going to hunt it with every part of me, because that's what lights me up. That's what feels in my natural way and alignment.
Yeah. I love that, man. I love that. And I love that analogy. And so it sounds like to me that a lot of that time is spent trying to find that effective action, trying to find that effective range where, you go all out and you hit that point. Yeah. And I'm sure this is your journey, and still is, right? It's always whatever you're doing, whether it be business, whether it be in relationships, whether it be in health, or, even personal development, that you're always, you're experimenting. You're trying to find is it here? Is the point here? Is it the point here? Is the point here or over here? Yeah. You're going to overextend, and sometimes you're going to underextend yourself.
Yeah. Yep. Right? Totally.
And so it's not always trying to find that perfect point all the time, the moment you walk into it, is it?
Yeah. There's a dynamic range. There's no perfect one point. It's like, as I said, sometimes overextend, sometimes underextend. That's relationships, work, all sorts of things. And it's just learning. It's kind of like, okay, cool. Well, that wasn't quite in the range. Cool. I'll pull back. Where's the next bit? Learn from that and go on. And particularly when it comes to, say, women and lovemaking, things like that, that dynamic range of where things work, very fluid.
Yeah. Oh, I love that, man.
That just takes a lot of just like intuition, being with it, being able to go, yep, cool, that didn't work. I've just got to completely drop that next thing. Cool. As soon as you get caught in that, like, I didn't do that right, or I tried too much, or I did this, we just get thrown. Yeah,
and I think what you're saying is so true, that now it's making more sense to me, is that the consciousness is more in the body than in the head. Because if we translate to that lovemaking, I mean, like, it's always in the head of like, oh, I got to be doing like this, or it's too fast, too slow, this or that, right?
Yeah.
Actually about the techniques. It's about the feeling and the moment of it, right? How much what you can do through there rather than what you're actually doing.
Yeah.
So,
Totally. Yeah. On a pure thinking capacity, it's like this is only a very small part of our thinking ability. You know, it's like, guys, listen, it's like go and, you know, you might not, but go and look, do a quick search on the nervous system. On search, and it's like there's this brain here, and there's this whole massive nervous system going through the body. That's this incredible amount of sensory input that we're picking up all the time. All of our tissues, all of our organs, every part of our body is picking up information. There's an awareness in it, and we can tap. And part of what we do in QiGong is really tap really deeply into that awareness. So I would really not just see and feel and think about people from here, but feel and experience them with the whole intelligence of our body. You know, and it's like, again, we actually have another brain in our heart, and this is science stuff, not just wacky Eastern esoteric things. And there's also literally another brain in our belly. It's like if you're just using this, you're only using at most a third of your thinking capacity. No, whereas if I would actually learn and activate these other centers, get in touch with us, know what's happening, you've got so much more mastery in life, so much more command over what you do, so much more perception, so much more awareness we can bring. You know, like I do one thing I want to focus on my work is presence training, and work training guys around presence. And there's so many guys who find being present a really hard effort. It's like they actually kind of find it exhausting because they're just trying to be present from their head. What they think of as presence is having all of their attention on somebody, and that's not presence. Presence is just being really fully aware to somebody. It's almost like pulling back that, having mental awareness on them, dropping a bit of that awareness down into the body and being aware, okay, how does this person feel in my whole body? What impact are they having on all of me? And that will feel to the other person like a whole deeper level of presence than having all of your mental attention on them. You know, and that same principle works in pretty much every aspect of your life. It's a core part of what I do and what I train is just access the whole thing.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And I think, is it true for you as well then, Jared, when you do that, right? Because I'm guessing you're accessing that a lot of the time through all your practice, is that when you meet people who aren't used to that they kind of call you intense, that they kind of say that you're you're really, really kind of focus cut type of guy, right? And they kind of get scared of you.
Yeah. Like it's like in my classes, in the first few weeks, I'm really conscious of dialing myself back a bit. You know, just like not like in any kind of condescending way, just kind of go. It takes a while for people to establish trust to get to a point where, you know, someone's just being like fully like in it. For somebody who's not used to that, it can be like, what the fuck are you doing? You know, it can be unsettling. Whereas like they're kind of conscious of meeting people a bit where they're at. And then as we converse, as we engage, dropping deeper and dropping them down into a deeper sense of them. So I'm not doing anything to them. I'm just able to then drop in deeper with them, and we have a lot deeper connection and communication. And like that's an awesome thing to be able to do particularly in dating and relationships and, you know, and that realm of life. I mean, but any rapport building thing, whether it's with clients or whatever, to be able to meet somebody where they're at and just energetically and awareness just drop in, and very naturally a deeper level of rapport and connection opens up over time.
Nice. I love that, man. I love that. All right, man, this has been an amazing conversation, man. I'm glad we to reconnect again on this one.
Likewise.
Yeah, man. I've been loving it. I'm loving it. And I think it finally clicked into me of what it actually means to be more in presence and in state. And so as we wrap up, man, we're going to go into some quick fire questions. Yeah. And the first one I want to ask you, Jared, and I'm not sure you remember your response from last time, but that's all good. We're going to make a better one, like you said.
Yeah.
We call this the time travel moment, Jared. If you could go back to any moment in your lifetime and give yourself, give little Jared a little piece of advice that you know today, when would you go back to and what would you tell him?
Yeah. I was one of the things for me with this kind of question is like, I'm so enjoying who I am now, I'd be really hesitant to even do it. And there's been some hideous times in my life, some really, really difficult and hard times. I'm like, I really don't want to do that again. But where it's taken to me now, I love what's unfolding and what's going on. You know, but you know, if it's repressed, like, no, you've got to go back. You don't have any choice. You've got to go back and do this once. It would most likely be in my early 30s. And I would just say, man, just be more of who you are. There's nothing wrong. There's absolutely nothing wrong with where you are and what's going on. That would probably be the most useful thing. Whether I could have heard that's a whole other question, but my perspective is now that's the most useful thing I could have heard at that time.
Nice. I love that, man. I love that. It's so powerful and so important. The next question I got for you, Jared, is, you've read a lot of books, mate, and so I'm interested to know if there's one book that's a total must read. What would that book be?
So for me, total must read for guys is King, Warrior, Magician, Lover. It's a book that covers it goes into the four primary masculine archetypes. It's sort of defined in their thing, King, Warrior, Magician, Lover. And it goes into the immature and the mature aspects of man and of those archetypes. And when I read it, I really thought I was starting to get somewhere. I really thought I was making progress with this thing. And it was one of the most humbling things I read, seeing like, yeah, I'm doing that. Yeah, okay, I do that. And it doesn't really provide a really clear program for how to go from that immature side to the mature side, which is probably its weakness. But to have a reality check, and then to have a sense of like, this is what the mature energy of man, of the masculine is and is like. It was just really powerful. And I mean, it's from that it was kind of from reading that I put together my kind of own 9-month personal transformation program that completely changed my life. Was following a pattern of that. I think it's just a really powerful and concise book.
Awesome, man. We'll add that to the show notes. And this next question I'm excited to ask you, man, is because, you know, for the modern world, Jared, you know, like women have been pushing it for like the last 30, 40 years, right? And developing themselves and pushing themselves forward. But I feel like, you know, the modern man slipped behind, and that they're not meeting, or they're not catching up with where women are at and where the world needs them to be at. And so, you know, through your work and through, you know, your foundation of, you know, the embodying man, what do you think men need to embody more of that the world needs from them right now?
Just simply themselves. Because that's, and part of this whole thing is like, you know, so, you know, it's like, I'm sure, you know, yourself and the guys listening to this have similar experience. We get told what to be all the time. You're told we've got to be stronger, build our bodies more, we've got to be more confident, more present, we've got to be more on purpose, we've got to do this, we've got to be better lovers, we've got to last for an hour in bed, whatever it is, and there's all this doing, we've got to be this, got to be that. It's the same crap as the old traditional model of man, which is man's got to be strong and tough and blah, 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 blah. It's the same thing, but actually more complex. Because we've got to be strong, we've got to be tender, we've got to be really sensitive, we've got to be really ruthless, we've got to have purpose, we've got to be able to relax. It's complex, man. Yeah. And can get so tied up in knots trying to be this idea of what the man's meant to be. And I think it's all just crap. Not crap. There's a lot useful ideas in it, but without that core of just who are you? What are you? What are, you know? Said all the guys like, what do you really feel? What do you really experience? You know, it's like, I mean, we use a few martial arts metaphors in this, and I'll use one again. It's like, it's, you know, when you're training doing combat, if you've got a weakness, if you've got a vulnerability, an aspect of your form that isn't that developed and that strong, and you choose to ignore it and just train the things you're really good at, you'll get taken out every time by a good opponent. Because they can see your weakness and they can exploit it. But if you're able to be really conscious, really aware, okay, yeah, that's a weakness I've got, and I'm going to embrace that and include that in my awareness, then you become incredibly powerful. Because somebody can see that, go, oh, I can see your weakness, they try to exploit it, and it's not a weakness in mind, it's a strength. You can go, yeah, cool, they're trying to get that weakness, bang, point it down. And it's the same in life. It's like, it's our, you know, okay, example for me, I was probably one of the least grounded, least in my head, least connected with my body people you would ever meet. I literally spent 12 years trying to have as little to do with the real world as possible. And I'm an embodiment teacher. I get guys really deeply and powerful in their body because in some senses, I embraced that weakness. I saw that thing and I worked with it. And having to go from that point to being really deeply in my body, I know how to get guys there. You know, if I was just always really deeply in my body, it's like I wouldn't know how to take guys on that journey. Doesn't mean I wouldn't be awesome, but I have another skill that I'd actually be doing more. You know, but it's that exact working with that, embracing that. It's become, and in some sense, it's still my weakness. I have to work to stay in my body, but almost because I have to do that, and because that's there, it's like that makes my ability to teach it and what I do powerful. So if the guy's there, just who are you? What are you feeling? What really is happening for you? The more you're in touch with that, the more any of us in touch with that, the more of this man that the world and that woman crave will turn up.
Love it, man. Love it.
But yeah, it's not the easy path.
it never is, isn't it, Jared? It never is.
No. A lot of people will tell you there's an easy path, and it's very rarely the case.
Oh, man, I totally understand. And as we wrap up here, man, one final question here for you, Jared, is, you know, if you had 30 seconds left to live and, you know, you're surrounded by your family, your loved ones, you know, your newborn kid and your other kids as well, and your friends, the people who you've made an impact on, right? What would you say to them? What would you leave them with?
That's a really good question. I feel like there's so many ways I could answer it. Probably the thing that's most present for me is that I just want to tell them that they're loved. Not just by me, but by everything. By the food they eat, by the earth they're on, by the sun, is like they are and they experience love, and there's nothing wrong. It's like just exactly who they are is exactly who they need to be in that moment, and just to be themselves and to allow themselves to open to the love that's in everything around them.
I love that, man. And so, Jared, thank you again, brother, for jumping on and
absolute pleasure.
Do this again. If people want to learn more about you and your work, where's the best place they can head to, man?
So, be my website, embodyingman.com. In fact, if people want a good bonus, a good intro into the QiGong work, go to embodyingman.com/forge your life. That will take you straight to something that I've put together for guys listening to this who want a quick onboard into a really succinct and really, like, one of my favorite QiGong practices. This one that I said I'd done pretty much every day for 20 years, that one, I'll take you through it. So if you want to get a window into that and just see part of what that world's about, jump on there. But, you know, on the website, whole bunch of articles, all sorts of cool stuff. Yeah, I'd love to see you.
Thank you so much, Jared, for doing that. And you didn't even tell me about that. And that's what I love, man. All right, guys. So make sure you jump on that. We'll add that into the show notes.
Cool.
Jared, man, thank you again, man, for being on. Absolutely.
Thank you, Richard. Yeah, I look forward to talking to you soon, brother.
Yeah, man. And so, guys, this wraps up another episode of the Forge Your Life podcast. Today, with the man himself, the QiGong master, right? Jared Osborne, here today. And I want to make sure that we get this message out there, because I know this. Jared doesn't want to keep it a secret. I don't want to keep it a secret. It's got to go out there. So make sure you rate the show so that we can actually get it up there and get his message and all the other speakers that we've had on here, their messages out there to the world, because this stuff should not be kept up in the vault. It needs to be gone out there into the world. Of course, you can head on over to richardfood.com to get the show notes and all the resources that Jared has shared here on the show. And of course, finally, remember to go out there, go live with love, guys, and go smash it. Never see you again.